February 11, 2026 regular township committee meeting of the Township of Waterford called to order at 7 p.m. by the Mayor Stephanie Jones Friday. Notice of time and date for this meeting appeared in Resolution 2026-7, dated January 5th, 2026. This notice was sent to the Courier Post and Township Gazette newspapers as a legal notice and sunshine notice in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. It is also posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Anyone from the public wishing to speak would be permitted to do so during the public participation portion. The agenda has been posted on the township webpage and bulletin board in the municipal building. Please place all phones on mute to alleviate disruptions of the meeting. Salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, please guide us tonight in our decisions and also keep the Guthrie family in Arizona in prayers for the safe return of their mother, grandmother. Amen.
One more moment too, please. A moment of silence for Camden County firefighter Howard Bennett. I believe he passed away last week in relation to icy waters. A training accident, I believe our fire department had just done several days prior. As a first responder, you never know when you won't come home, and you never plan on not coming home, but in this case, he didn't get to come home. So if we can please have a moment of silence. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Committeeman Doney.
Here.
Committeeman Giulio.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Wade.
Here.
Committeeman Yukis.
Here.
Mayor Jones Freitag.
Here.
Professionals, we have David C. Patterson, Esquire, Township Solicitor. Daniel Cormany, Administrator and Waterford Township Police Chief. Dawn Liebke, Township Clerk. Deb Shaw Fleming, Deputy Township Clerk. Danelle Bright, Chief Financial Officer. Vincent Renzulli, Superintendent of Public Works. Michael Doherty, Administrative Assistant to the Committee. Jeff Hansen, Township Engineer with ERI. Chris Sylvia, Waterford Township Fire Chief. William Gardner, Waterford EMS Chief. And Michael Ward, Director of Community Development.
Presentations, we have none. Closed session, can I please have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2026-80?
Motion.
Second.
On a motion and second to approve resolution 2026-80 of the Township of Waterford, authorizing the Township Committee to go into closed session pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12 for discussion related to the following: personnel, conflict attorney appointment. Voice vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, we are recessed at 7:03 p.m.
Can I please have a motion and a second to reconvene the meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Voice vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? We are reconvened at 7:24 p.m.
Roll call.
Committeeman Doney.
Here.
Committeeman Giulio.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Wade.
Here.
Committeeman Yukis.
Here.
Mayor Jones Freitag.
Here. Statement on return from closed session.
There is a decision to be made from the closed session.
Yes, there is one resolution that is from closed session, resolution of the Township of Waterford appointing a conflict attorney, Eric M. Bernstein and Associates. That will be resolution number 2026-97. We'll add that to the consent agenda.
Dawn, do you have any items to be added to the agenda? Any other items?
Yes, I do have some emergency items to add to the agenda. Resolution 2026-93 is a resolution of the Township of Waterford authorizing the purchase of a canine police dog for the Township Police Department at a cost not to exceed $10,000 with funds from the opioid abatement settlement. Resolution 2026-94, resolution of the Township of Waterford appointing Alicia Lewak to the Environmental Commission. Resolution 2026-95, resolution of the Township of Waterford appointing Triad Associates to provide affordable housing consulting services. Then Resolution 2026-96, resolution of the Township of Waterford approving a proposal submitted by Key Engineers to provide professional engineering services for the housing element in the Fair Share Plan and Haynes Boulevard redevelopment plan amendments. I also have an addendum to the bill list, so when we get to that part of the agenda, I will read the other numbers off. And we need to remove one resolution from the agenda. Resolution 2026-90, resolution appointing a deputy emergency management coordinator needs to be removed from the agenda. And that's it, Mayor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Approval of minutes. Can I please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, on a motion and a second to approve the closed session minutes of December 30th, 2025, regular committee meeting minutes of January 5th, 2026, and regular and closed session minutes of January 21st as presented. Can I have a poll vote, please?
Mr. Doney?
Yes.
Mr. D'Angelio?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Yukus?
Yes.
Ms. Jones Freitag?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Can I please have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 2026-4?
Motion.
Second.
Ordinance 2026-4, an ordinance of the Township of Waterford amending Chapter 176 of the Township Code, captioned Land Use, Development, and Zoning Legislation concerning home occupations. I now open the meeting to the public for comments regarding ordinance 2026-4. No comments, it's closed with that, please. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Doney?
Yes.
Mr. D'Angelio?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Yukus?
Yes.
Mayor Jones Freitag?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Committee reports?
Is
Oh, sorry.
that the motion to approve the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're good? Okay. Committee reports, Jeff Hansen, ERI.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a report dated February 9th, 2026. I know it's been a brief time, only about 3 weeks since we last met, so I'll try to give, which is pretty brief, I'll give updates on the things that have happened since then. Obviously, not a lot of construction going on anywhere with the ice tomb we're currently living in. Hopefully that'll melt soon so that everything can get back to normal. The Hamlet Court and Sesame Street application, or project, we're working with Think Pavers to get a pre-con scheduled, and they want to get going shortly after the weather breaks. So when I have an update on a start date for that, I will apprise you. I should know by the time we meet in March. The Raritan-Bartram intersection, that's the realignment. I did reach out to Jim Winkowski at the county to see what the status of the full relocation application is. I didn't hear back yet. We'll figure out what the next steps are once I hear back from Jim. Hopefully that's been approved and we can move forward with getting a design and figuring out who's gonna do what with that. The Waterford Rec hockey and pickleball. I talked to Keith Bott, he's the electrical sub, he's gonna be coming out. He can't get to his handholds, obviously, with the snow and ice. He needs to access those to put in the strobes and the push buttons and the extra outlet. So once the snow melts, he'll be able to get back in there and access the conduit and install that and complete that portion of the project. That I also submitted the paperwork to Camden County Open Space back around the beginning of the year to get reimbursement of the $25,000 from the open space funds, and working right now to get the reimbursement requested with DCA for the local recreation improvement grant funds that were also part of that project. We're actually working on a 2026 local recreation improvement grant application for the rehabilitation of the 3 softball/baseball fields over at Ritter. There's a resolution on your agenda this evening to authorize the submission of that application. Everything else is pretty much done. Once I get the resolution, assuming it's passed this evening, get the resolution from Dawn, and that'll be submitted on their online portal where the applications go in prior to the deadline, which is on Friday. Colgate interconnection, working with Neary to get all the submittals finished. There's a lot of submittals on this, shop drawings. We got most of them done, and then they're working on fabrication of some of the materials. And once everything's ready to go and the weather breaks, he'll be out there working on that. That should probably only be like a 30 or 45-day project. I expect that to move pretty quickly once they get out there. It's just there's some lead time on some of the mechanicals. And then the dugouts over at Thomas Richards, I'm working with think it's, I can't remember the name of the fabricator. We're working on with the fabricator of the dugouts to get recommendation on some contractors, looking at maybe having that work done through the co-op if that's possible, with Sean and Danelle's help. If we can't do it that way, we're gonna do a formal bid. That way we can get that moving as soon as possible. I'm hoping to have something on for award at the March meeting, so that those can get constructed as soon as possible. And that pretty much sums up everything that has an update at this point. Happy to answer any questions or comments.
I got a question there.
Yes.
Fabrication on the dugout? What is it?
They're prefab. When we put together plans with the masonry dugouts, if you recall,
Yeah,
at that time, Martin, who helped me, he designed the dugouts. He's our structural engineer. He suggested, we provided just another set of like stock drawings of prefabricated structures that go on a slab, and obviously have.
precast concrete?
What's that?
Precast concrete?
No, they're like steel and, I don't know
What is that,
exactly.
panels? Maybe just a
They're just prefab units that are basically like shelters that put some foundations in the slab and you just drop them in.
Interesting.
And it's, I think it was the quote we got from, I think it was Claymore is the name of the company now, it's coming back to me. I think it was $25,000 for the 2 structures, and then the other work would be the installation, and the foundations would obviously be additional, but I'm working with them to see if they have preferred contractors that might be in the co-op, or if they don't, we'll put it out to bid and make sure those folks are aware of it when we do advertise it.
I know you can't do much with the weather being what it is,
Yeah.
but when the weather clears up, I'd like you to look at those light pole bases over from the deck hockey.
No,
rink.
absolutely, it's on my punch list, so
Okay,
we're gonna have that.
that's all I had, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Robert Tony?
Yes, briefly. Unfortunately, the school board meetings have been the same night as the committee meetings the last 2 months, so I've not been able to attend. Hopefully that'll work out in March. We plan to introduce the budget next month, at the next meeting, and then put it forth for approval in April. Our communications and newsletter, we're making some progress on that. Mike, we're looking for what, April, May?
Yeah, April. To do a spring, summer, / a fall winter.
Yep. That's all.
Thank you. Thomas Jean Julio?
Thank you, Mayor. Fire Department report. Dated February 10th of 26, this is for the month of January 26. Fire Department responded to 38 calls for service in the month of January. There were 12 daytime calls and 26 nighttime calls. Members spent 448 man-hours on calls and 352 man-hours on training for the month of January. Training encompassed firefighters drilled on the following topics: department meeting, mandatory JIF training, CPR mandatory JIF training, CPR mandatory JIF training. Safety topic: with the recent power outages, residents should be mindful of portable generator safety precautions. Portable gas-powered generators should be operated in a safe distance from the house or any combustible objects. Generators should not be operated near windows. Heavier gauge extension cords should be utilized to handle the generator amperage. If operating near an attached garage, a CO detector should be installed in the garage to ensure exhaust is not getting pulled into the living space. I'd also like to state that our fire chief for the last 2 days has been involved with coordination for the firefighter that died in Camden last week. It was a tragic accident. He was trying to board the city's fireboat and slipped and fell into the water, went through the ice. I believe it took him about, what, half an hour to find his body? And I guess he was deceased by the time they found him. It was a tragic incident. I'd like to thank Chief Sylvia for doing that. The police report during the month of January, Officers responded to 1,192 calls for service, issued 357 summonses, made 15 arrests. The officers logged 2,846 patrol hours, traveled 10,733 miles, made 44 school zone checks, 36 rec field security checks, 268 business security checks. Waterford Township EMS, I'd like to report following for the month of February of 26. Billy, I believe it's January, am I correct?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Be January. EMS had 204 requests for service with 124 patients transported. We're very appreciative of the fire department and public works for assisting with patient access due to the excessive snow. Our staff completed a spending this month completing their annual in-service training. This included HIPAA, bloodborne pathogens, and harassment training. Any questions or issues concerning EMS, please feel free to contact me. They were dispatched 204 times. They transported 124 people. Mutual aid was 47 times, and mutual aid received was 13 times. County OEM for the month of January. Emergency Management would like to thank the ACO senior citizens for stepping up the staff reception center in the event of an evacuation of residents becomes necessary. We have met with them and are now working to establish procedures, acquire supplies, and prepare to provide a staff facility for our residents to go if needed. This winter has again shown the need to be prepared in bad weather for loss of power. Make sure that you have a plan to relocate if necessary, and don't forget your pets. Be weather aware. The other thing that the chief and our fire chief and public works was involved in, prior to the large storm, we had checked all the generators at all the township facilities. This building, which would be the police department and the township offices, public works, the fire department, and all the generators are in working condition, and if we had needed them, they would have been up and ready and rolling. Civic and events, we got St. Patrick's Day coming up in March. I don't know the exact date, but it's going to be upon us very quickly. We're hoping that the new people that are buying Brotherton are going to be open and operating by then. Economic development, we've been speaking with two potential developers for projects on Haynes Boulevard. We're voting tonight, the first reading on the new sidewalk dining ordinance. We are also working on a new overlay for Haynes Boulevard redevelopment area, which is very much needed. It'll simplify anybody that wants to develop back there. It simplifies the Pine Lanes process. We've met with them a couple of times, and that's moving forward. Historical, we're getting ready to purchase some shelving for the new shed that was purchased, so that the shelving will house all the actual historical artifacts in that building, so they'll have a place to put that. Also spoke to Chairman Kayati about moving the proposed train station forward. Last discussion I had with him, we are waiting on an estimate of what the cost will be. There are some subcode issues that he has to get answers on from the construction office, so I'm waiting for a response back from him so that we can start to move forward with that. Atco Lake, I haven't heard much from the county. I've been trying to called them several times and haven't had a call back. The County Parks Commission. I'm going to call Commissioner Nash tomorrow. They've been a little bit overwhelmed with what's been going on with the storm and the extreme cold weather, so I'm hoping at the March meeting to have some information on that, and hopefully we'll have another meeting before that. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Edward Lucas?
Thank you, Mayor. Construction and zoning has been relatively quiet. They've issued 19 permits in the month of January. I believe there was 15 violations issued. Mr. Jakowski, our zoning officer, wanted me to remind everybody that with President's Day coming up, and mattress sales, and this is a little bit of Andy's stuff, but I'm overlapping, to make sure all the mattresses are wrapped in plastic if you want them picked up from Public Works for trash. And he is going to be going around and enforcing that. So if mattresses are put out, bulk trash is put out at the wrong time, they will issue violations for that. So make sure you got to follow the bulk trash schedule that Andy will speak about. One of the other things, so I met with WTAA this week and the Recreation Committee, and at the Rec Committee, we had Vinny there and Mr. Doherty, and one of the things we talked about, one of the bigger things I think we talked about was in relationship to some of the sheds out there on the properties. I know we're looking at putting in money into our capital budget for replacing some of those sheds, and WTAA had some donation money that they had available, and they wanted to see maybe if we could combine that and do something to get the sheds reworked at Waterford Township, so at the Waterford Township property next to West. So maybe that's something we could talk about and see how we want to handle that situation.
Vinny briefed me on the.
So you're aware of that.
Just so you're aware, I put money in capital in 25 for that, so we have money there.
Perfect,
Money in
okay.
place. Yep.
Yeah, so they want to
That
be
won't be a
involved in it
problem.
and talk about it and
Yeah, we'll get together with them.
contribute to that if needed.
Yeah, it should be no problem at all, though. Yeah.
We'll be on that, it's really it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wade?
Okay, Public Works. We had, obviously, everybody knows we had a storm, which started in snow and then quickly developed and turned into ice. A lot of people don't realize ice stops working when it hits 20 degrees and lower. And we were fortunate for like 3 weeks to have some pretty cold weather that we have not had in a very long time. So, snow plows, in my opinion, were not that much effective. Most of like parking lots and stuff, a lot of people use loaders. For my businesses, we use all loaders. We continued as the week went on to try to put more salt out. There was a salt shortage. We were in one co-op for Camden County. We are now in 2 co-ops, one in Camden County, one in Atlantic County. The Camden County Co-op, their boat was coming up to Delaware, couldn't make it up to Delaware to Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania, because of the ice, so they had to be relocated to Paulsboro and be unloaded there. A lot of people don't realize when you're unloading bulk salt, it's not your normal freight. It's loose, it's not packed in bags, it's what they call break bulk. So we got through it. Okay, we do not dig out people's cars, trucks, campers, RVs. We do not clean your cars or your vehicles off. Okay, we do not in parking lots. When I say a parking lot, like for Whispering Pines area, we do not plow around parked cars. If your car is parked in the centers, we do not plow those centers until your cars are moved. We have sent out our loader operator a couple times over the last couple weeks. So if people got their cars out and moved, we could go ahead and clear that. We did have one resident that was not happy and then proceeded to scream and holler at the loader operator, and he just went to the next spot, but then she continued to pursue him in her car. Our loader operator is safe, he was not harmed. But, you know, I understand people's frustrations, but there were a few cars, and Public Works guys were very, very respectful and plowed around some cars that were in streets. I gotta tell you, that's the first and the last. If we have snow again, whether it be this season or next season, cars are going to be towed, especially when it's all this ice. You know, you can just watch any movie that's got ice in it, okay? Especially like ice road truckers and stuff. You don't know when you're pushing this stuff, especially with a machine, where it's going to break, how it's going to break. You could be 10 feet from a car, and if the snow and the ice is frozen in the right way and he goes to push it, it could go into the car. So for the simple reason, we're not damaging people's cars. In an emergency situation like this, park your car on your lawn if you have to. Get it out of the street. You have to. And then a lot of people don't realize, you see on the news and stuff, like with the different cities and different areas, like New York City, they have these big machines where they dump the snow in and it melts it. Well, because snow could be contaminated with road debris or salt, which the salt comes from the ground, you can't just dump it in the ocean, the Delaware River. It's got to be over a sewer inlet, so it can be processed. So Philadelphia, if you see where they dumped theirs, they scooped it up and dumped it in certain areas. Also, us as a township, we didn't have to do that, but if we put out too much salt, then we have to go back and pick it up. We have to sweep it up. You can only allow a certain amount of salt on the roads. So a couple things we've come up to, because this is my 8th year in council. And I know in the beginning, probably the 2nd year we had that I was on council, we had a problem where we had back-to-back ice storms. So our recommendation, talking with the chief and Vinnie and some of the other council people, we're gonna go ahead and do a capital improvement and build a bigger salt barn. One that'll hold about 2,000 tons, because we use about 120 to 150 tons per store. Our salt barn that we have is around 150 tons. So if we have back-to-back storms, we don't have enough time to get a salt delivery. So we're going to increase that. And then my recommendation is we keep our small salt barn and do a mixture of sand and salt with that. So if we do have a very frigid area time frame, that we can apply that. Now, the sand is like a big no-no with the DEP, but if it comes down to public safety, we'll have to use sand and salt mixture. That's all there is to it. So, and then we're also going to buy 1 or 2 more bigger trucks, because also our town is equipped with a lot of pickups and medium dumps, and that's fine if it's just snow and it's under 12 inches. Once you hit 12 inches and more, you need much bigger trucks to push that snow. So we're gonna invest in a couple more trucks. This way here, we're ready, whether global warming's here or not, whether it's the ice age coming or not, we're gonna try to be ready for either one. And just so you know, like when we buy salt, when we refill our salt dome, it's like $70 a ton off-season, i.e. not winter time. At the peak of winter time, you could be paying anywhere from $150 to $250 a ton. Double the price, triple the price. So it makes it much easier for us just to have the salt on hand and be done with it. Bulk trash. Bulk trash was canceled for the month of January. Hopefully this month in February, we will be able to pick it up. I have to be honest and say, I looked at Facebook a few times, and people were like, I hope Public Works digs out my stuff because I put it out before the storm. We're not having Public Works go out there with shovels and picks and dig out an old mattress or a sofa or, you know, a piece of rug. You know, you gotta be realistic, okay? We're not doing that, so we just plain canceled. And then this last weekend, we closed the convenience center because we had the 50-mile-an-hour winds, the 0 wind chill. Nobody's really gonna come out in this weather and bring a mattress. I mean, if you're that desperate, just put it outside. Maybe somebody will take it, if we could all be so lucky. But if not, there'll be better days to bring it. And I would like to say thank you to Public Works, because you guys did a good job. You were out there a long time, a couple times you've been out there. And a lot of people don't realize if you don't have Public Works and don't have clean streets, police ain't getting around, the fire trucks ain't getting around, Mr. EMS is not getting out there. It's a problem. So recovery of a storm starts with Public Works. So. Environmental Commission, really not much. They're moving along. That's it.
One thing
Mayor,
I
if I
forgot
may.
to bring up.
Yes, Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Deputy Mayor Wade. This town was in a bad way after that storm. We ran out of salt. And there was supposedly another storm that was coming. Myself, the chief, Vinny, we were all kind of sweating, working with Andy, trying to figure it out. He pulled a rabbit out of his hat. I don't know, what'd you get us, 100 tons? I want to thank you for that. Really went out of your way to make sure that we had what we needed to protect the, the residents of this town. So thank you very much.
All right, and by the way, we didn't pay for it. We borrowed it from another place that had an excess, so we just have to return it. But I do occasionally pull a rabbit out of the trash can.
One of the things I forgot to mention that we were looking at on the Recreation Committee side, and we can talk about this a little bit too, Andy, is we have private organizations that use our fields, that are not WTAA or the Wolves, but other for-profit organizations that pay a fee to the township to use our fields. And I think we need to spend some time looking at what those fees are that we're charging them, and to see if they're in line with other townships and municipalities, because it costs our public works money to bring those fields up to where they need to be and maintain them and things like that. And if it's costing us more money to maintain these fields because of this additional use, I think we should be, checking to see if we're covering our expenses. And then if we do increase those fees should definitely be put right back into recreation and not into like our general fund, but used for our athletic fields and stuff like that to make future improvements. But I think we need to do a little bit of research on that, find out what it's worth and then what it costs the public works to do that work.
Yeah, I brought that up at the last township meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I'm all on board.
cool.
For the senior citizens, the meetings are the second and fourth Mondays of each month at noon. You can bring your own bag lunch, or they typically will have a lunch for a small fee available. And then there's usually a presenter available from 12:30 or 1 o'clock on. This past meeting, they had someone presenting about co-ops for solar. So ways to save money. I'm not sure, Dawn, did we get that? Did we put that on the seniors link on the website? There was a little flyer?
That ended up being a business.
A business, okay, so
So we
no,
could
that's
not
not on there. Okay. But there are co-ops to save potentially. And the seniors just had a meeting this morning. They have a reception committee that aids OEM. So they just had a meeting this morning identifying some things they need to do to prepare for emergencies. And they also have a list of items they'll need to address helping the public should they have that type of situation. The library had its board meeting the second Monday of the month at the library. And there's a lot of use in this township for the library. Just to give a little bit of insight, there's book clubs, knitting clubs, writing clubs, toddler, maybe story time. There's a whole ton of kid activities from hot chocolate bars to movies. There's adult crafts, there's children crafts. Other organizations meet there, such as the Historical Society. They have game times. So basically, the library is not just used for taking out books, but it's used by the community as a whole. And they just wanted to make that well known. And that is it for me today. Monthly financial statements for January 2026. Can I please have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Bob?
Yes, clerk report, $8,391. Clerk dog report, $554. Construction official report, $283,963. Court report, $8,438.62. Tax collector tax report, $1,715,287.04. Tax collector utility report, $211,571.24. Tax collector redemption report, $23,720.06. Cannabis tax report, quarterly, $10,151.34. Vacant abandoned property, 0.
Voice vote, please.
Mr. Goni?
Yes.
Mr. D'Angelio?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Yukus?
Yes.
Ms. Freitag?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
We will now open the meeting to the public for agenda items only.
Hi, Carol Lido, 1246 Middle Avenue. I have a question with the cannabis tax report. Is that both places?
That was actually, I don't know, just from having the reports, that was actually just one had submitted in January, the other didn't submit until.
Because how does that work like with the quarterly reports? I know they're 4 times a year.
Right.
So are they bound to report by those times or how does that work?
So, I don't know, I don't recall,
Yeah.
is there, yeah, they're required to report by a certain time, but if they don't, then it's not showing up to the February report, so that's not why it's not on the January's.
Because I saw last year's, like it was all different months that they came in.
So it used to be that they could pay monthly, and then we changed it to quarterly. So that's why the older ones, you're seeing it every month, because it was every month.
Okay.
And if I may, that's how they pay the state quarterly.
Are there penalties on that if you don't pay like your tax at a certain time? So it could just be, yeah, it is.
Yeah, there are penalties. In fact, our business administrator will visit the place and try to bring them into compliance, and if not, they could place their license in jeopardy.
Okay, because I just was wondering if it worked like regular taxes that we pay, like, you know, you
No
have to
license
pay.
could be placed in jeopardy.
Okay, all right, well, that's good to hear. That's all.
Thank you.
John Howard, Anthony Road. Just on what she said, we get hit with a penalty the minute we're late on our property taxes. How many minutes do they get to be late on their cannabis tax? If we're 1 day late, we get hit with a penalty.
I don't have an answer for you on that.
So, should I ask my dog?
You could if you want to.
Well, I'm asking the people that should know this.
I don't have an answer for you.
When can we get an answer?
Next week I can have an answer for you, I'm sure.
Okay, you're sure?
I would think so.
Okay. Well,
We can have an answer before the next meeting.
we will have an answer at the next.
No, before the next meeting, we could have an answer.
How are we gonna get that?
I'll touch base with our clerk, touch base with our business administrator, review what it says, and they get back to you and give you the answer.
We went into closed session for a solicitor,
Conflict attorney.
or for a conflict attorney. What was the process for hiring a solicitor? If we knew we were gonna need, every person up here knew we were gonna need a conflict attorney with the solicitor we hired. So what was the price of the second solicitor as opposed to the first solicitor and the conflict attorney?
No matter what, you need to have a conflict attorney. There, at any time, a conflict could arise, so it is wise to have one. We should have one, and we will have one.
We've only had one for a couple of years since we had the marijuana stuff.
That's not true.
No, we always advertised for a conflict
But
attorney.
the current, one of the reasons we're getting a conflict attorney is because the solicitor we decided to hire is automatically disqualified because of a conflict of interest.
That's not true.
How is that?
Totally
true?
untrue.
That's not true. You would have a conflict solicitor in place anyway, whether you utilize it.
Right, but this current solicitor said
But
that
you would have a conflict attorney in place because if he had a conflict with another
Well, we pay
client
by
in
the
the
hour.
matter, we've had,
We pay by the hour for the, I saw.
That's
the
correct.
Proposal.
But
So
if
we
he's
already
not-
know we
if-
have a big amount of time for the for the cannabis.
but if Mr. Patterson is not billing for a service, we'd be paying a separate solicitor to do that work. It's not like we're gonna pay him by the
Isn't
hour.
it a yearly fee?
No, I will. Cannabis, to put this in perspective for you. Conflict attorney came in 2024. That doesn't surprise anybody. It started in the summer, 2024. In 2025, there was the conflict attorney, just like now. And in 2026, the same thing. The only thing that happened this year is when they advertised for conflict attorney, they only got one proposal. And they decided they'd like to go out and see if they could get more proposals. And that's what they did.
John, to answer your question, it's billed by the hour.
Has it always been billed by the hour?
Yes.
Because I saw something that showed a fee for the conflict attorney and an hourly amount.
No, that
We did not
person was
choose
not,
that
that
attorney.
person was not appointed.
That was not the appointee.
This person's by the hour.
So can we publicly put out something that's very easy to access
Sure.
of what the bids were for solicitor and what the bids were for the conflict attorney? So that we can publicly see that without having to make a big Oprah request or anything like that.
You have to do it over, because that's what everybody else has to do.
All right, so how would I word that Oprah request?
Just ask for the RFPs that were submitted for solicitor, for conflict attorney, and you get them. Public information, they've always been public information.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Agenda items only?
Good evening, my name is Suzanne Nicholson. I am the owner of Holistic Solutions. We are the cannabis medical dispensary that has been operational in your beloved town since 2022. We've been operational without any blemishes. The chief of police has been here. We have been a cooperative business owner and a friend to many in this room. We have consistently paid our taxes on time. I just want to clarify for the record that Holistic Solutions has always paid our taxes on time. We've cooperated with the town, so we've been a part of the Agile Alliance, we're a part of the WTA, and we are concerned community residents. So I just wanted to clarify for the record that Holistic Solutions, we pay our taxes on time every time. We've been here since 2022 and are happy to be proud members of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. As there's no one else, I'll close the public portion. Applications. Can I please have a motion and a second to approve applications 1 through 6 as presented?
Motion.
Okay. Facility use application, Waterford Township Civic Event Association, Easter egg hunt, Lions Park, Township Building, Saturday, March 28, 2026, 12 p.m. through 4 p.m., rain date, March 29, 2026. Facility use application, Waterford Township Public School Color Run, School Fundraiser, Waterford Recreation Complex, Friday, May 15, 2026, 4 to 8:30 p.m. Facility use application, Waterford Township Athletic Association softball field use as per application for Thomas Richards Complex, Ritter Complex. Facility use application, Central Jersey Force fast pitch softball use, Ritter Complex softball or softball fields at Thomas Richards, whenever is available, May 18, 2026 through August 12, 2026, Mondays through Fridays, 2 hours, 2 days a week, 6 to 10 p.m. We'll coordinate with WTAA to ensure no conflicts. Facilities application, Top Gun Fast Pitch 18U, Ritter Softball Field, May 26, 2026 through August 18, 2026. Tuesdays and Thursdays, if available, 2 days a week, 2 hours each, 6 to 10 p.m. We'll coordinate with WTAA to ensure no conflicts. Facilities application, Waterford Township Athletic Association, Wings Soccer, Burnt Mill Complex, Upper and Lower, and Ritter Complex, February 17, 2026 through June 26, 2026. Mondays through Fridays, 5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., Saturdays 10 to 9, Sundays 10 to 9. Poll vote, please.
Mr. Dillon.
Yes.
Mr. Ginjulia.
Yes.
Mr. Wade.
Yes.
Mr. Yukus.
Yes.
Mayor Jones Freitag.
Yes to all except 4 and 5. I would still like to see schedules from the WTAA so we know for a fact these outside organizations are working around their existing schedules, so there's no conflict.
Motion carried on all.
Communications, I have one, and then if anyone else has one, please let me know. I received an email commending our officers, so I will read that email to you now. Last Tuesday morning, 2026, about 10:30 a.m., 2 of your police officers, Officer Daniel McGuckin and Officer Derek Naylor, responded to a medical emergency at this address for my mom. These blessed gentlemen cleared a path in the ice and snow so the ambulance could bring mom from the house to the ambulance. I would like to make sure that mayor and council are aware of these valuable employees they have, who reinforce the comfort and security and contribute to us being proud residents of Waterford Township. Captain Timothy Lyons and Chief Daniel Cormany followed up with me to check on my mom's status. We are happy to report that mom is doing well. X-ray and CAT scan showed no internal damage. She's doing great. We are thankful for Officers Daniel McGuckin and Officer Derek Naylor and the entire Waterford Township Police Department and Chief Daniel Cormany. Thanks and take care. It was nice to receive a positive email about our police force. We do get them from time to time. Anyone else have?
I have two.
Okay.
That's okay. We received communication from Senator Moriarty's office today on that initiative that we work with them to increase the stipend that we get from the state every year. I guess they call it Highlands Preservation. And I think last year, or this year, we got about $231,000. Based on the fact that 70% of our township is not able to be developed because of Oregon State Forest. It's always been a thought of ours to go to the state and ask them to find ways to get more for us. We developed a bill with the senator's office. It's actually called Waterford Fair Share Act. And that bill is being heard by the Senate Environmental and Energy Committee tomorrow. If that passes, it will go to the Budget Committee and then eventually to the full legislation. The senator is very confident that it's a bipartisan bill, and he expects it to pass. If it does, our stipend will more than double. So we should get around $450,000 a year from the state to accommodate the fact that we cannot develop in Morton. There'll be more on that to come as we hear from the senator. There's also another bill that we put forth and worked with the senator's office on as it relates to municipal fines. A few years ago, there was an initiative by the Attorney General in Jersey and the legislation to avoid or not allow for suspension of licenses when it came to collection of certain funds. There's other pieces of that as well, but what the result of that has been significant receivables on the part of a lot of, or all municipalities in the state. I think ours is running about $550,000 in receivables. So this, if it passes, and none of these things are overnight sensations, they take time, but if it does, it'll give our court and our prosecutor more teeth to be able to go, and if they don't pay their fines, we can issue warrants and or suspend their licenses. Also got an email from the State Pinelands Commission as it relates to Acco Lake. Finally, the Pinelands Commission has approved our plan, not our plan, the county's plan, as it relates to how to deal with this humpback bladderwort plant that is an endangered species in the lake, in the back of the lake. So we're gonna have to ward off about 5 acres of the lake in the back, so when the lake gets treated, we're not allowed to touch that area. So it's passed the Pinelands approval, it'll now move on to the DEP, and hopefully, finally, in May, or thereabouts, we'll be able to treat the lake, and we won't have lily pads all over the place so that we can walk across it instead of fish on it. So look forward to that this summer, and hopefully by the time our environmental commission has their fishing contest, that'll be cleaned up. That's all. Thank you.
If I may, to add on to Bob, in reference to Paul Moriarty with this payment for the Wharton Forest, this has been something that has been even down to zero sometimes because it's been a football with the governor's office in the past when they go to do the budget. Is what Paul Moriarty's done with Bob's help from last year is it's going to be actual legislation where there's a formula and it's an actual, you have to pay this. It's a bill, not just, yeah, we got extra money, we'll pay Waterford and the other surrounding towns. Because and the reason why he was able to get bipartisan support is because there are state forests all over, state land that's preserved throughout New Jersey. And we've all experienced, yeah, you get money this year, nah, you don't get it this year, yeah, we'll give you 200, yeah, we'll give you 300. All dependent on the governor's whim on his budget. So this will be something that we will know that we will continue to get.
And the name lives on, the Waterford Fair Share Act.
There you go, Bob, I gotta tell you, that was a good thing. Thank you.
Anyone else, communications?
If you remember, I just want to make a point to Andy's point. When Governor Christie took over, we were getting a stipend annually from the state, for the state forest, $390,000. Over 4 years of Governor Christie being there, it went from $390,000, what was it this year, Bob?
$230, I believe.
It was actually less than that at one point. It almost went down to zero.
No, 1 year we got zero.
Yeah, and it's like it was a convenience for them. If they had the money, they'd pay us. If they didn't have the, you know, if they didn't have the money, no big deal. They didn't worry about it.
It used to be under the DCA. I mean, that's basically who was, running it. And now, to Andy's point, it'll become law, and they'll have to pay it. So that's a good thing. 3 months.
I just have a statement of my own I'd like to read into the record here. Several years ago, well before I was elected or even thought about running for township committee, my company and I performed some limited site work during the design phase of the rec house project on Haynes Boulevard. Specifically digging the test pits and some of the preliminary budgets and design work for that project, and we recommended an architect. And while that work was minor, and long before I was sworn into the township committee, I've heard some concerns from some residents regarding my involvement in that project. I know there's been a lot of public interest and concerns surrounding these cannabis facilities in our community, so I've spoken with legal counsel, and out of abundance of caution, I've decided that it's best that I recuse myself from future discussions or votes related to cannabis ordinances or potential changes to the regulations. I know this issue is important to a lot of residents, and people care about where these facilities are located and how they operate and the impacts they have in our town. And if we pass any restrictions or anything like that, I don't want it to look like I'm holding back other cannabis businesses to benefit prior clients of mine. So
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Discussions, land sale.
So I was approached by a resident in town who lives on Maple Avenue, and I don't have the specific lot and blocks, but Dawn has a copy of the email. They have a 2.2 acre property that's landlocked behind their house, and they want to try to purchase that land from the township and add it to their property. It would bring them up past the 5.7 acres. They're trying to add a pole barn. No construction would happen on that property, but they've expressed interest in trying to purchase it to increase their acreage and add into their impervious coverage calculations.
So what's the next step for that then?
Well, I sent a memo out to everybody in regard to land sales. There's 2 ways you can do it, which is a public auction, if you adopt a resolution. And if you're gonna do that, you certainly need more than one piece of property, because there's cost involved in advertising and putting it together. There's another way to do it, and that is to adopt an ordinance to sell property to people that have less than the zoning requirement to build on that property. And that's to adjoining landowners. That's called a private sale, to only the adjoining landowners that have parcel. You have to do that by an ordinance. It's similar to the same advertisement and the same conditions that you put on the resolution, but it's only those people that are adjacent to it. They submit bids in a sealed envelope, and the highest bid is awarded. But usually you like to have more than one piece of property. There are several pieces of property, Dawn's put that list together more than one time, that the township owns that we could put up for sale. I just did one in Pine Hill. We collected over $260,000 on that land sale. We sold 6 pieces of property. I think it's something we should very seriously consider. Let's pull the properties that we think have enough value. We're not looking for properties that are completely in the wetlands unless somebody wants to buy them to add to their property. But let's put a list together. We want to put all the undersized and the properties that are larger than what's permitted in the zoning, put them all in one thing for an auction, or do 2 separate things by an ordinance or resolution. I think we should do it. Let's pick out those properties, let's get a value on them. We can use our tax assessor, if they're not too large, to get the value, advertise it, and hold a sale.
Everyone in agreement with that?
My concern is with these smaller pieces that are not buildable, sell them to an adjacent property owner, is they should have to consolidate the 2 lots.
Well, we do.
Yeah.
That's part of the condition of sale.
And that's what they're looking to do.
Well, I didn't see that in your memo.
Well, I didn't give you the resolution.
Okay.
The resolution said there was a number of conditions.
Okay.
And we've done this before, you've been
Right.
involved in those land sales.
Right, but I just want to make it clear, because these are one-armed paper hangers that
No,
are a problem, and I want to make so that they're consolidated to the big lot, and then hopefully we won't have these problems.
that's exactly
With
what
small
you did.
property.
That's a condition of the sale.
That's why this came up from the landowner that reached out to me, is because they're surveying their property and doing design work for this pole barn they want to put together. And so if they can acquire this property, they want to do all that as part of the same process.
So if Don can put together, send that list to everybody, look at those properties, let's pick a dozen off of there, right? that the tax assessors put a value on it. We either do ordinance or a resolution to have the sale, advertise it in the paper, and we conduct the sale right here. Dawn conducts the sale. I come down and assist her for any questions. If we do it by auction, we take the highest bid. They have to give us 10%. They have 30 days to close on the sale. If they don't close on the sale, we keep their deposit.
So we're all in agreement.
So
Would you
by
like
the
to
next
put that list
meeting, we
together?
should be able to have something, right? For the next meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Calendar mailing? Is that Bob or is that Steve? The calendar mailing?
That's done.
Okay.
Okay, so I brought it up, but we have not had an environmental meeting yet,
Okay.
because we had our last township meeting too close.
Okay, so we'll be waiting that for next, we'll move this next one.
Yes.
Okay. Tom, 250th birthday of America?
Yeah, I've been working closely with Chief Gorman, our police chief, and our administrator. We had all collectively decided that we wanted to do something for 4th of July, being that it's a 250th celebration of America. The chief spoke with Mayor Magazoo from Berlin Township. I spoke with Rick Miller, who's the mayor of Berlin Borough, as well as Carl Mascarenas, who's in charge of all their public events. Basically, we didn't want to rain on their parade. They have a very large parade for 4th of July, and they were very, very happy to hear that some of our groups in town may want to participate in their parade. As most of you know, for years and years, Berlin had the parade in the morning. It would end up at the park, and then they would have festivities all day. And then after it got dark, they do fireworks, which they no longer do any of the afternoon activities or fireworks. So the chief and I had a discussion. We talked amongst the committee people, and we would like to do a celebration on Acco Avenue on the 4th of July, which is a Saturday. We are going to hopefully have people from our town participate in the parade in Berlin. They're willing to extend the length of the parade, and it would wind up at the old Kmart parking lot, which has more than enough room. And that would be it. They're done usually around noontime. We're thinking our event would go from 2 in the afternoon until 7 o'clock at night. We really didn't want to go beyond 7 o'clock because most people are looking to get to places where there's fireworks. Fireworks generally start 8:30, 9 o'clock in most towns, so we didn't want to inhibit people from being able to attend those events. Spoke also to the American Legion. They're excited about it. They're talking about having the bar open, having a small hamburger hot dog vendor, well, themselves, cooking them, and then have a small beer garden for the national brands of beer. We're hoping again that Brotherton is open. They could do all the craft beers down there. And then we've also talked to Mrs. Sands, who heads up Civic and Events. She's going to have all the normal vendors that are there, the food vendors that are there, and where she charges them to come to our events, we're going to let them come for free. And they'll make money that day. It'll be, it's going to be like a big block party. What we need to establish is a budget for what we have to spend. Now, Louise has talked to her vendor that does the bouncy houses, which normally goes on the township parking lot right there next to the barber shop. They're gonna run about $1,400. Been talking about a DJ. We were talking about bands, but cost of a band and trying to get them scheduled for that day, I think right now, from the people that I've spoken to, it's kind of prohibitive. We can get a DJ for like $600 or $700, somewhere in that range, and he'll play the whole period, the whole 2 to 7 period. And then talking to the Legion, they're always tight for money. So we wanted to try to help them out with maybe some of the food that they need to do the hamburger and hot dog thing and the beer thing. I think all total, we're probably looking at like somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 to do the whole event. And I just need to get clarification on whether the committee is okay with that. And obviously, we'll try to keep it on the lower end of things, but I need to know, and the chief both need to know what we have to spend to put this event on.
We should talk to the potential
purchasers of the Brotherton project. I did speak with them this week, and it's moving.
Okay.
They may be willing to sponsor part of that. I mean, they seem very community-driven, and this could be a good opening for them.
Kind of didn't want to hit them in the face with this, because they're only going to be open for, a couple of months.
Yeah, but it could be, they might be interested or might have some type of connection. I mean, it's worth having a conversation with
Well,
them.
if you want to talk to them.
The conversations me and Bob had with them, Tom, they want to do that. So
Okay.
I don't think
Yeah,
that would
they
be,
do.
yeah, I think they're willing
Part of the
and
plan.
I need-
excited about it.
What we need to do right now, we need to get, I gotta get a DJ booked up, and I gotta get the bouncy house guy. So the DJ is gonna be $600 to $700. Bouncy house is gonna be $1,400, so we're looking at like $2,000 just for that stuff.
Chief, why don't we make a motion to establish a budget right now of at least 4,000, which will help with the Legion, with food purchases, and the bouncy house and the DJ and whatever, to at least get you started.
Yeah, and then if the people from Brotherton wanna kick in, we would just reduce that amount,
Right.
with what they
But
put in.
at least you can get started now, because this is February.
I'm not sure, maybe Dave can speak on this. I'm not sure we should be contributing taxpayer money for alcohol at the Legion.
No, I don't mean alcohol. Let's make
Yeah,
it
we gotta be a little
specific.
careful there. what we
The
do.
Let's
hamburgers
make
and
it
hot dogs.
specific for food only.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Food only.
I made it pretty clear to Anthony when I talked to him that we couldn't do anything with the alcohol. They would
Right.
have to do that, but if we could help them out with the food, it gives them more ability to do what they need to do with the alcohol side of it on their own.
As long as the hamburgers are good, I'm okay.
So do we we're gonna make a resolution for that?
Actually, just need a motion right now to authorize to expend not more than $4,000 toward the 4th of July celebration.
And that's to get it started, so you know.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right, poll vote. Sorry, Mr. Doney?
Yes.
Mr. Gingulio?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Yukus?
Yes.
Mayor Jones Freitag?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Thank you, everybody.
Social media policy?
Yeah, let me go back to the calendar. Doc, which calendar are we talking about? The Public Works one?
Yes.
Oh, okay. The Public Works one is ready.
Okay.
I thought we were talking about the one from the Environmental Commission. Okay, Public Works. So that's ready.
Yeah, as long as we get permission to do it, I can start that tomorrow.
I do know how much it is.
Yeah, I have the total price is gonna be $3,140. It's $1,755 for printing and then $1,385 for the postage.
Okay. That's to mail out the Public Works calendar to everybody, every household.
And that will include the full trash.
Yes, that includes all the bowl, the metal, electronics, all that
All
stuff.
the phone
Like we had
numbers,
last year.
contacts, everything.
Okay.
Donnell, excuse me, is this in addition to the budget? Okay.
So are we looking to
So we're looking for a motion.
motion for that? Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion and a second for moving forward on the public works calendar.
And it cost, what was it?
$31.40?
Correct.
I'm sorry, when will that be mailed?
As soon as they can get it printed up.
So we're ready to go.
Yeah, we checked with a couple different printers, we were trying to get the best price that we could. And we found, the best price we had going up this, that we were going to use was $2,500. We found somebody the other day to do it for $1,700.
So is it for 2026?
Correct.
Okay. But how
Bob,
fast will it be out?
Bob, we would move next year, I talked to Mike about it, we would move to do this at the end of 26 for
That's what I'm
27.
thinking,
Yeah, now that we,
Yeah.
now we have a template for it, we'll know what we're doing. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do a poll vote. Mr. Doney?
Yes.
Mr. Gingulio?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Yukus?
Yes.
Mayor Jones Freitag?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Okay, and Whispering Pines retention pond, I believe that was.
Well, social media first.
Oh, sorry, social
That's
media.
all right. Okay, I spoke to the chief about this, and the Environmental Commission was, this is where it started. We have, and I think is all I'm looking for is to allow the chief to go ahead and start to look at this, how we fix this. We have supposedly a couple different Facebook Waterford Township Environmental Commission Facebook postings. And Terry was very frustrated, Terry Charlante, who kind of handles, I guess, the one. And her frustration was she didn't have complete control over it, and sometimes other stuff gets posted, she didn't know how to take it off. And then I also saw the fire department put a post out asking residents to help dig out fire hydrants. And anything Public Works puts out goes through the administrator. Public Works doesn't put anything out without somebody looking at it. And I'm concerned that we're starting to open ourselves up for issues. Like if Public Works says, we need help digging out trucks, okay, and some guy goes out there with a Jeep and he's gonna hook on there and the cable snaps and whips around and cuts his head off. Are we liable? Because we asked for somebody to help that. So I just would like the chief to look at this stuff, and I think our social media, especially, we're not looking at individuals, we're looking at Waterford Township organizations.
Andy, just so you know,
Yes.
our policy states, I brought, because I knew this was on here, no media advertisement, electronic bulletin board posting, or any other communication accessible via the internet about the municipality or on behalf of the municipality, whether through the use of the municipality's communication media or otherwise, may be issued unless it has first been approved by the township administrator or governing body.
Okay.
Should be coming.
So it should,
It's already there, we already have it.
all right, so then I guess, chief, as the administrator, you need, I'm letting you know my concerns.
I'll put a memo out to the department heads.
Yes, because it's, and then like this last Saturday, the Township Environmental put an alert out about, remember, bring your plastic bags. And I called the chief, because I saw it on a Friday, and I'm like, we're gonna be closed, there's 50-mile-an-hour winds, it's gonna be below zero wind chill. We're not gonna have Public Works down there. And we were supposed to get snow, not knowing how much, Friday night. I said, I don't want people, no matter how brazen they are, to come with a couple plastic bags in 50-mile-an-hour winds to a facility that's closed, or if it does have a lot of snow, we're gonna be filling trucks with salt and snow plows, and it was never checked with us. So we need to get a better handle on this, because it's all good intentions, but there needs to be control over it. It's out of control.
That's not a problem.
I wanted to touch on one thing you said, Amy, because you mentioned it, we talked about it the other day. The post from the fire department about digging the hydrants out. Don't we have, or does Waterford Township have an ordinance that requires those to be dug out within a certain period of time? Like, I know a lot of towns, you have to have your sidewalks cleared within X amount of hours and your fire hydrants dug out. And that's the responsibility of the resident.
There's not anything that mentions the fire hydrant as being in the residence, but obviously the New Jersey Administrative Code allows the municipality to enforce that.
I think we mentioned something we should add for a discussion topic at the next committee meeting. But
I think the problem with that, if I may, as Andy's saying, if you have a resident go out there and shovel a fire hydrant out, all the fire hydrants are in township right of ways.
So
They're not on their own property. He's shoveling a fire hydrant out, who knows what could happen? I'm not gonna give any instances, but something could happen, and somebody gets hurt seriously. They're clearing our fire hydrants. And
What's the difference with a sidewalk though?
Pardon?
What's the difference if they're shoveling a sidewalk or a fire hydrant?
Sidewalks are not ours.
Well, there are, in the right way.
No, they're not.
No, that's the residents.
Sidewalks
The
are
resident maintains the
residents'
sidewalk,
maintenance.
their sidewalk.
I know a lot of the municipalities on the opposite end of the county have ordinances in place that those hydrants need to be dug out by the residents. Or they have to have somebody do it. But if a hydrant lands on your property or sidewalks, they have to be cleared within
I think
X
that's a
amount
bad
of hours. And I
idea.
think the sidewalks are important too.
I think that's a bad idea. I think you're opening up to potential litigation with that. Mayor?
My personal opinion, that I'm more concerned liability-wise, that if we were to have a fire in the jurisdiction or within our community, and we're unable to use a hydrant and somebody's to get injured, I think that's more of a liability on the town than somebody that may injure their back or whatever it may, trying to dig out a fire hydrant. Township of Medford has an ordinance, you have 24 hours from the time the snow stops to have any hydrant that's within your vicinity of your home, or else you get fined. Right? That's how important it is. The city of Philadelphia put it out the other day to try and ask for help. Of course, they have a lot more hydrants than we do. Right? It's something that every department around here is putting out, asking for help. Voorhees Township, Career Department, a lot more residents, a lot more fire hydrants than they have. Put a social media post out asking for help. Right? That's all that we ask for that. In my opinion, the liability is a lot greater for the residents of our community if that hydrant is encased in snow.
But you waited a week after the storm before you went out and started clearing the hydrants, put that post up.
Yes.
So if it was so critical,
No,
why wasn't done the next day?
We put it out prior as well. It was
Okay.
prior to the storm, we put it out as well.
Did you go out the day after the storm?
No, we did not. We were out and about, we had crews in the station, but a lot of the hydrants that were a problem were from private contractors cleaning up parking lots that then dumped it on the hydrant.
Okay.
Our affordable housing over here, it was 5 feet of snow on top of it because they had to get the dumpsters out. So they took all that snow, dumped it on the hydrant.
Okay.
Okay? So a lot of that we couldn't take care of, we dug out 43 of our hydrants.
Okay.
That was gonna be my question, is how many hydrants do we have?
43 out of, I think we have 142 with the new affordable housing.
We have 142 in town.
So,
You wouldn't do anything on private property like shopping centers, stuff like that. That's not up to you, that's up to.
anything that's in our public water system, unless it's a private hydrant, we wouldn't do, but anything that's in a Waterford Township hydrant.
So with the affordable housing, did you at least let our fire marshal know?
Fire marshal was made aware, Vinnie was made aware, the police
Okay.
chief was made aware.
Okay.
I believe they were sent a letter the next day,
Okay.
to discuss, that as well.
So it don't happen again?
Correct.
Absolutely, okay.
I think, just personal comment, this isn't where this was going, but 142 hydrants is a lot of hydrants. So I think that's way too many to expect our volunteer fire department to try to dig out. And it's also too many to expect Public Works to try to dig out. Public Works has their own issues, they get the streets sorted, but they can't be going around digging out hydrants. But also with a volunteer company, maybe it's something we just should think about or look at, see what the liabilities are,
We
weigh the
need to
risks.
find a way to protect ourselves from any potential liability.
Right, and the
How many
residents who
towns
could
that
need that
require
hydrant.
it? Towns that require, what do they do?
Oh, that's what they do.
They
It's an
require
ordinance.
residents to do it.
Yeah, that's what they do.
And what's their protection, is what I'm asking, for
Uh,
liability?
There's really nothing, they're just asking them for a volunteer to help them do that, right? If you pass an ordinance to make it mandatory, yeah, you are putting yourself in harm's way, but I understand what the chief says, is that, what's the greater liability here? House burning down with kids in it, or just somebody spraining their back a little bit, taking out the hydrant? I go with digging out the hydrant.
Okay, so are we going to
Well,
further
kind of
discuss
like-
this, or?
Yeah, why don't I put together some things for everybody to look at, and then next meeting, we can make a decision.
Hopefully we won't, this is the end of the snow season. Come
I
on.
hope so.
Let's everybody keep
Never
their
been to
fingers
that.
crossed.
We have Whispering Pine Retention Pond, and we have.
Okay, with the Whispering Pines retention pond, okay. When you go into Whispering Pines, you're coming from here. The first entrance, you make the hard right. The township has acquired the front corner of that property, and then now we also own the retention pond, the small retention pond straight behind it. My thought is that we cut off that retention pond from the big retention pond, okay? Because we have not maintained the little retention pond. If we go to maintain it, they've been running around $40,000 to re-dig it up and redo it and fix it all again. And then we're on top of them now where we maintain them, so off the top of my head, I would guess a couple $1,000s a year to keep it maintained. My thought is if we come up and we can cut that pond off, consolidate that pond with the front corner lot, now you have one big piece of land. And when I say big, maybe it's 1.5 acres, an acre. Jeff?
I have the tax map right here, it's probably, thanks, Aaron. It's got them, I started wearing them a year ago. What would I do with that here? It's roughly 300 by 135, so probably that's about an acre.
Okay,
There's
so
a curve radius in there, right around an acre.
So this way we could take the property and then we could sell it.
Yeah.
Put it up for sale, we sell it, we save the 40 grand on fixing the retention pond. The retention pond is so little, it really doesn't do anything. It's always been dry that I've seen. Been,
Yeah.
So the big pond,
the re-
pond.
the
The
big
big pond
retention
is-
pond
The
that's right
big pond,
across the
even with the most rain I've ever seen, it's not even.
is so large.
So big.
That it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out, but we have to have an engineer that says, yeah, cut this off, this, I'll handle the calculations, because you know it's gotta go through DEP or Pineland.
I don't know if that's good through DEP, but
No.
what I wanna do is, I know you and I talked about this the other day, is I wanna go and work with, the clerk's office and the construction office to see what kind of design plans I can find on these. You own both of them, they're both
Right.
township exempt properties, we do own them
Right.
both. And just, see if I can dig up how this was designed and see what kind of capacities in them, and then also figure out exactly what is. Hamlet Court drains out to Whispering Pines. One of the concerns we had is maybe that drains back through the back, but it does not, that I could tell when I went out there to look at it, because we had this conversation.
Right, when we were doing
Months ago,
Hamlet,
right?
yep.
When we were doing Hamlet Court. So figure out what exactly is dedicated to that basin, and then figure out if and how much additional capacity we would need in that other piece. Whether it drains quicker or not, we still gotta follow the rules as far as volume and all that, obviously, for a certain intensity storm. So, if I can accomplish that rather quickly, I could put a proposal together for the next meeting to do whatever work we would have to do
To do this.
to reverse that, put together design plans and whatever we'd have to do to that basin to make it work.
Right, so is what I'm asking committee for is, can we authorize Jeff to make a proposal to come back to us to cut that off?
It won't be any cost for me to do a proposal, Andy, so I could just give you the proposal, but not even, I don't think we need resolution for that.
Or just direction?
A vote on that?
Nope, all you have to do is just authorize Jeff to give you the proposal. When he gives you the proposal, you have to go.
Right.
Can you do a preliminary or just ballpark construction budget on that too?
Absolutely.
Just
Yeah,
before
yeah.
we
As
commit
part
to
of what I
something.
do, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As part of the analysis, of course.
Yeah,
And what
and
would this
that would
cost
be
roughly
consolidated.
for you to put this bid together?
That's what I'm trying, I wanna look at what the scope would be as far as what I'm actually gonna have to do, that would determine the price of the proposal. I don't wanna get, I wanted to get a proposal, but I don't wanna speak out of pocket without knowing all that's involved. That's why I wanna look through the old files and see, what we actually have, so I don't have to recreate the wheel with a topo survey, or if I can find old plans or drainage calculations, that sort of thing, then I can,
Before
not cut corners.
we spend any
We spend a
money,
lot
I'd
of
like to know
money.
whether it's gonna work or not.
I wanna do
Yes.
some work to see
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
work I don't have to do. I don't wanna have to start from scratch if it's not necessary. I don't wanna have to send do a topo survey if I don't have to. If there's volume calculations somewhere, then I can just sort of figure out what's what, and it'll cost you less at that point.
So then is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
You're not authorizing any
Right,
expenses.
we're just
Proposals are-
authorizing him
To create a proposal and do that research is overhead for me, so
Okay.
it's not gonna cost the township anything for me to do that.
Okay.
Okay, so you can do this.
Okay. No, I don't charge for trying to do proposals.
Old business, none. New business includes resolutions and ordinances, consent agenda resolutions. Consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by a single motion. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by certificate of availability of funds. Any item can be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately at the request of any committee member. Can I please have a motion and a second to adopt resolutions 2026-81 through 2026-89? Resolution 2026-91, and resolutions 2026-93 through 2026-97.
Motion.
You're removing resolution 2026?
Dash 90, yes. Yes. Have a second?
Second.
Okay, and do I need to read through all these, or am I able to just give Joy to vote?
It's up to you.
I would like to.
Just one
go to the
agenda,
vote.
everyone has the agenda.
Yeah. Except for, Dawn, if you can read the ones that we
Yes,
added.
so we're not going to read all the resolutions that are on the agenda. I am going to read the ones that we added that aren't on the printed copy for the public. Resolution 2026-93 is a resolution of the Township of Waterford authorizing the purchase of a canine police dog for the Township Police Department at a cost not to exceed $10,000 with funds from the opioid abatement settlement. Resolution 2026-94 is a resolution of the Township of Waterford appointing Alicia Lewak to the Environmental Commission. Resolution 2026-95 is a resolution of the Township of Waterford appointing Triad Associates to provide affordable housing consulting services. Resolution 2025-96 is a resolution of the Township of Waterford approving a proposal submitted by Key Engineers to provide professional engineering services for the housing element and fair share plan and Haynes Boulevard redevelopment plan amendments. And 2026-97 is appointing a conflict solicitor, Eric Bernstein. All right, I'll do a poll vote. Mr. Doney?
Yes.
Mr. Gingulio?
Yes to all.
Deputy Mayor Wade?
Yes to all.
Mr. Yukas?
Yes to all.
Mayor Jones Freitag?
Yes to all.
5-0, motion carries.
Thank you. In introduction of ordinances, can I please have a motion and a second to introduce ordinance 2026-5 with public hearing and second reading on March 11, 2026?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Ordinance 2026-5, an ordinance of the Township of Waterford establishing guidelines, conditions for restaurants and certain alcoholic beverage retailers and manufacturers for service of food and beverage in designated outdoor spaces. Can I have a poll vote, please?
Mr. Doney?
Yes.
Mr. Gingulio?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Yukas?
Yes.
Mayor Jones Freitag?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Can I please have a motion and a second to introduce ordinance 2026-6 with public hearing and second reading on March 11?
Motion.
Second.
Ordinance 2026-6, an ordinance of the Township of Waterford repealing Chapter 79 of the Code of the Township of Waterford captioned Affordable Housing and replacing it with a new Chapter 79 of the Code of the Township of Waterford captioned Affordable Housing to address the requirements of the Fair Housing Act and the Uniform Housing Affordability Controls, UAHAC, regarding compliance with the Township of Waterford's affordable housing obligations. Can I have a poll vote, please?
Mr. Doney?
Yes.
Mr. Gingulio?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Yukas?
Yes.
Mayor Jones Freitag?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Can I have a motion and a second to introduce ordinance 2026-7 with public hearing and second reading on March 11, 2026?
Motion.
Second.
Ordinance 2026-7, ordinance amending ordinance 2026-3, establishing salaries and wages of certain officers and employees of the Township of Waterford, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, effective January 1, 2026. Can I have a poll vote, please?
Mr. Doney?
Yes.
Mr. Gingulio?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Yukas?
Yes.
Mayor Jones Freitag?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
Payment of bills. Can I have a motion and a second to pay the bills?
Motion.
Second.
Bob?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Current fund, $3,540,210.45. Utility fund, $89,142.48. Planning board escrow, $7,454.75. Capital fund, $16,603.25. Utility capital, $1,060. Grant fund, $402.50. Excuse me. Trust fund, $2,433.60. Prior payments, $15,833.33.
Poll vote, please.
I do have the addendum to the bill list that was provided to committee, just so I can read it for the record.
Yes.
There's 3 things that weren't included on the bill list. One, $450 for Association of New Jersey Recyclers. One, $152 for the Sustainability Conference. And then $1,800 for the library camera charges. Those were just not included on the bill list previously. Mr. Doney?
Yes.
Mr. Gingulio?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Yukas?
Yes.
Ms. Jones Freitag?
Yes.
5-0, motion carried.
I open the meeting to the public. I now open the meeting to the public for comment. Please note that there is a strict limit for each speaker. Okay.
Carol Zito, 1246 Middle Avenue. Our group, the People for Waterford First, have been out to these meetings, November, 2 in December, January. Obviously, January, we didn't have the conflict attorney, but November and December, we had the conflict attorney. but I don't know, the mayor at the time, deputy mayor, committee, whoever makes these decisions, knowing that we were coming and coming back, never had the conflict attorney here to answer any of our questions or to help the committee to make decisions. Now you hired a new one, appointed a new one. Will he be here at these meetings when we, to make decisions? So when we have questions, we know Dave can't answer and that's fine, but somebody needs to start answering us because it's been a while now. We see how you act on baking licenses. They come up and they get approved. We see everything come up and get approved. And that's fine and that's great for those things. But we also have been, fighting hard to try to bring this town back to what it was with these limited licenses and put them in areas that are not residential. So we need some answers. So is the attorney here tonight? Did he stay or?
The attorney is here tonight.
Is he willing to help tonight if people get up and have answers?
We
and
have not
questions?
yet had our subcommittee meeting.
You're gonna start that?
You have a date already scheduled for that.
Do you have all your people set to be?
There will be some changes, but that will be taken care of. So hopefully by the next meeting, we can have a little more information for you.
When are you starting the subcommittee?
We have a date for the 27th
Of this
month.
Okay.
Yes.
It was my suggestion that we have the attorney stay, so at least he could listen to what some of the concerns are. Well, not some of them, all of your
Right,
concerns. So this way, he has a better idea when we meet, so we can talk about the concerns and hopefully how he's handled them in other ordinances in other towns. So he's really not here to answer questions tonight, but he's here and he's listening and he knows why he's here.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I want to give everybody one of these. I've talked to Vinnie, I've talked to the chief about this. Do you need one of these? The township we spent $30,000 grinding up trash, Vinnie, last year?
Brush.
The brush. Well, this might alleviate this problem. Okay, I mentioned about solar, we got a grant for did I say I'm Mark Stewart, 2331 Barton Avenue?
Oh, okay, we didn't know who you were.
All right, where was I?
You got a solar, you had good
We
ideas.
got $400,000 grant for solar. I mentioned that about our prosecutor and judge, it wasn't a bad idea, and I understand that person's not here. Is that going to come back, or is that in limbo right now?
We don't discuss personnel.
Okay, all right, next up. Mayor, I want to thank you. Of all the mayors and former mayors, the only one that called me and answered me and met with me to discuss the problem. And I appreciate that and I thank you. I know there's other people here that don't feel you're answering the questions, but I want to say that. And the floor looks nice. This is a new floor we have here. Okay? All right, Vinny, you guys, I want to commend them. Last time I was here, they went out in the parking lot and were picking up nails that some contractor had dropped on the ground, and somebody would have got that tire. And I had a magnet, so I made it easier for them. And then I said, let me shovel that little path there, because they had to walk around. Nobody wants to walk around 5 feet. They all walked over the hill, and they shoveled that part, so they did a good job.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, all right, I used to be, I am, and still am, a mayor of the Historic Society and the Training Society, but I don't go to the meetings anymore because I had a conflict of interest with some people there, and I figure it's best for me not to cause any more weeks. But an English gentleman, I think his name is Mr. Taylor, he suggested we become historic. Mount Holly, I think, did that, and it did wonders to them. So there's a possibility for that. Okay, all right, next thing, we got the wood furnace, these guys. Okay, this last Saturday, my property was vandalized. This officer here took the blood samples of the person that smashed the windows of my modular home that I have been trying to put on for many years now. And for some reason, I've been getting problems. But he took the blood samples, so anybody knows anybody's that right hand cut, everybody raise their right hand. Anybody have cut hand, right hand? good possibility that person is interested. Okay, all right. All right, I mentioned it last month that we have different government bodies or different seating arrangements. I've talked to 3 people that are paid from the township, and I've heard 3 different answers, and 2 of them would not comment on it, so they couldn't comment. Now, when I mentioned this, you commented it, so it's being covered up. And that's obvious, okay, but that's, okay, now, this is a bad one. I hate to do this, but it's been 9 years that I've had February 6th, my fire in my house, okay? My house was tore down 2 hours after the fire was out. 2 hours after the fire was out, they ripped my house to the ground.
So address the committee.
You have 1 minute.
I would like Tom to step down from being counsel. I have first-hand information that he pursued Mr. Toussaint to tear my house down. It's cost the township $51,000 for my house to be torn down. $19,000 because I went to federal court. I didn't have a lawyer, so I dropped it. Okay? And if I won, taxpayers would have to pay more taxes. I lost a $90,000 house plus contents. All right? It cost $27,000 in lost tax revenue. Every year the town loses $3,000 because my taxes got reduced to $2,000. I was paying $5,000, now I'm only paying $2,000.
Mr. Stewart, your time's up, I'm sorry.
Okay, and $5,000 to tear the house down.
John Howard, Anthony Road. What happened to the old canine we had?
I'm sorry?
We used to have a canine. What
He's still
happened?
here.
I thought we got rid of him.
He's alive and well. The Nico you're talking about, the shepherd?
I'm not even sure.
He's doing great.
I thought we got rid of one of them.
Why would we get rid of him?
I don't know. I was before Nico.
No. Oh, you're talking about Lenny back in the day? That was a long time ago.
I don't remember. I know there was one here and then it went away.
Echo, Jesus.
Oh, Echo, no, that wasn't a canine dog. That was a comfort dog and he,
So we're gonna have two?
we're gonna have 2 canines. There's a reason.
The judge.
We've been promised for 3 months now, update from the cannabis committee.
There is no update because we have not had a conflict with the solicitor. We have one now, we have a meeting scheduled on the 27th, and we can have information from that for that. But there's nothing really different today other than the fact that we now have a conflict solicitor.
Why does the mayor, both mayors, keep promising something?
I've promised nothing besides the fact that we will get a conflict solicitor, and once
When
we
you
have
did your
that,
speech, you said you'll, next meeting, you'll have information.
we have one, we have a conflict solicitor now, but we have to have a meeting to go over information. So that was not done tonight, we don't have that kind of time this evening.
Are there any updates with the cannabis committee? Like who's on it?
She gave that.
I already
Originally,
mentioned it.
originally, it was the mayor and it was Mr. Wade. You didn't know that last time, so are you on it now, or is it still the old mayor?
We're
And
making changes to it, so we will have that information on the next meeting.
are we gonna get any residents on this?
We're gonna discuss that. It will be discussed.
So we're just gonna keep kicking the can down the road?
That's your opinion.
Well, it's been, we were promised stuff at the December meeting, and it's now.
John, excuse me if I may, Mayor. No one promised you anything, John. That word was never used. What we said was that the subcommittee is working on it very hard to look and try to mitigate and discover how to mitigate. Excuse me, I'm speaking, some of these problems, okay? We never promised you anything. What we said was we would come back with an update in January. That's what we said.
I have the audio of the meeting.
Then you can play
And
it
we
for
were
us, but
told
I'm telling you, I never
we were gonna have
promised
an
you
update
anything.
We
in
haven't, we
January.
had an update. There was an update given.
What
You,
was,
you didn't like the update.
the
That was
update
given.
was we have nothing.
A few things were mentioned, and we did provide that, and hopefully we have more. But an update was given. It was short. I remember you saying specifically that you didn't care for it because it was very short. So, but that was an update. And we will have further once we have a meeting, which we will have on the 27th.
So Can you use the word promise for the next
I will
meeting?
not use the word promise. I will say that we will have something after we have the meeting. I don't know what we're gonna cover. I hope to cover quite a bit.
When is the meeting?
The 27th.
Are we allowed to come to that, or is it still secret meeting?
It's not a secret meeting, but we are deciding who's gonna be on the committee, and so
Well, that's a secret, either it's public or it's not.
it's not public.
No, it's not public, it's closed.
So it's a secret meeting.
No,
It's not a secret. You know about it.
Joanne Sabasco, 1714 Victoria Lane. Just a few follow-ups from our group. The last time I was here, I did a lot of research. You're gonna think I'm crazy, but that's okay.
you weren't the one chasing the loaders, so no.
Oh, good. Well, I have to comment, and please don't start in 5 minutes. Public Works, thank you. You guys were fabulous in the Waterford area. Yes. We traveled into Winslow, and you can slide off the roads. So I want it to be known that our guys are awesome, or women, for that matter. Okay, my 5 minutes. Stephanie, Andy, I sent you a quick email. It's in this packet. I don't know if you received it, but it outlined what I said in January around the Folsom and also the Hamilton recent resolutions, their changes. I really want to make sure our team, our committee here is taking notice of these surrounding towns. Folsom and Hamilton demonstrated the flexibility that we have as a New Jersey under the NJSA 40:48-2, where it protects public health, safety, and welfare. This committee can make changes under that. That's my understanding, and it's others as well. I have sat night after night comparing surrounding townships. And I have to say, I'm disappointed with our last conflict attorney. And the reason being is because their ordinances in Folsom, which she wrote or advised, are pointing towards industry and commercial only. Blocking and making notes of blocks, and it's very limited to those zones. You have a summary in your packet. Buna, our recent conflict attorney here, has had all kinds of inputs. I know Buna's conflicts, or their cannabis ordinances. Winslow's another one. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I want it to be known that the 4 major towns around us here that are involved in cannabis are all commercial industrial use only, or industrial zones only. I created a summary and mapping of visuals because I needed to know where these possibilities of cannabis farming or etc. When we started, Matt D'Onofrio shared this map right here, noting all the AG areas. Today, you have 2 maps in front of you, Waterford and Acco. Waterford alone, there are 7 locations, 3 on Heselton, 1 on Condo, 1 on Middle, 2 on the Old Wayhorse Pike. We're surrounded by developments, schools, churches, and I can go on. These 7 locations are in a 4-mile radius, literally. My house sits in the middle of them all, and that's not why I'm on this committee. I'm on it for all of us. ACCO. We have 6 locations. They're all up and down the Wayhorse Pike and 1 on Haynes Boulevard. We have 2 established businesses that are looking to make a living, who are looking to grow their businesses, and we're giving letters of support. If I may, if I can go back, we thought we had 18 resolutions. We actually have 21. Out of those 21, there's 13 businesses, all basically racing to the finish line. How is that even allowed, or why would we even want to promote it? Our applications were missing addresses. They were missing business address lines, applications that noted multiple addresses on them. We have businesses changing location and there's no record. And then the resolutions we had where there was one resolution
And it was voted, but it wasn't even listed on who voted, but it was signed. I'm kind of like, I know in my position at work, I'd be fired for this. The multiple businesses has me bugged because in our ordinance, you cannot be within so many feet, and I know I'm probably running out of time.
You're down to
So I want to finish up by saying the maps are going to be posted on Facebook under the People for Waterford First. Anyone can look at it, but in the realm of things, we have businesses or applications out there that are ranging between 465 feet to 0.849 miles. It's insane. I feel like we have to overhaul this entire ordinance, and I'm looking to each of you to make I know Ed, you just said you could not do anything. You just started on this committee. Why would you even take the position and be sworn in if you knew that was gonna be the case? You know this community
Ma'am,
has
your time's
issues.
up.
So, may I have to respond to
You
that?
can respond.
So, I was involved in that application for the rec house years ago.
It's not about the rec house.
That was the project that I was involved in.
Didn't you vote on the rec house extension?
I did not.
You did?
I abstained from everything rec house related on the planning board, and no notice of people I went to high school with them. And I didn't see a conflict there because I was looking at it as it's independent. I'm not working with them now. I don't have a contract with them. However, after talking with council, any restrictions that may get passed that I would vote on or anything in that favor may look like I'm trying to favor the rec house because they already have their approvals, and therefore I would be limiting their competition. So if I voted to restrict anything, they already have their zoning approval in place. So it could look like I'm making those votes to,
To help.
right, to allow the rec house to flourish while harming other businesses, and then that could.
So if I may, we don't have a conflicts attorney on board yet. Maybe that needs to be
do.
discussed. Right, but maybe that needs to be discussed before you take yourself out of the
I
picture.
had a conversation with,
You had a conversation with the attorneys
right, with all of our.
this evening.
Mayor,
I had
can I
it
correct something?
And that was not something I thought of. That was brought up by residents, and that's why I addressed this with our solicitors. So I probably should have stepped back prior to this, it related to anything cannabis, but
You didn't know.
I did not know. I was unaware of it, and so now I'm trying to address it now that it's become a concern.
I just want to correct something. The former conflict attorney did not have anything to do with creating zoning or approvals for where cannabis can be sold, cultivated, etc. That was done years ago by a committee. I believe it was 2021.
Yeah, I was the
Yeah,
mayor.
so the conflict attorney former had nothing to do with creating ordinances as it relates to the zones.
She just made it unlimited licenses for.
So the difference is, if you look at Folsom, you look at here, it's night
Need
and
anyone who's
day.
interested in speaking to come up to the microphone, please.
And you have a copy of the Folsom ordinance.
Nathan Apple, 1740 Aaron Drive. Mr. Yukis, are you related to anybody from the rec house?
I am not.
So our attorney has decided that there's a conflict and you have to be out of any discussions, but for some reason we have a council member who has a letter of support who's been able to vote on every single letter of support besides his. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm not sure.
You have to admit, because you work with.
Move the microphone up, sure, there you go. Big guy.
What you're referring here on?
I'm referring to Councilman Giangiulio, who has a letter of support and abstained from his letter. However, has voted on every single cannabis ordinance as well as letters of support after that.
Excuse me if I may. I voted before I got my letter of support. I have not voted on anything since my letter of support.
I have the records of all of them. The ordinance has been changed 12 times. You have voted every single time.
Prior,
It was all prior,
After.
it was all
After.
prior to me getting my letter of support.
I'll provide you with the data. It doesn't lie. I mean, you guys can go right onto your website and look at the votes. There's been one vote that you've abstained from, and every single one since then you have voted for. But we have someone who did some work several years ago for a contractor who's not related. I mean, that's everybody in town. We're a small town here. I hope nobody buys any cakes from this lady who just passed this ordinance because we're all screwed. all right?
Well, I'm gonna go get one.
And I'm curious to see where these cakes actually get sold at. Because if they're connected to somebody who's pushed this through an ordinance in 6 weeks, I mean, I don't know, I love cake, right? But this is ridiculous.
What ordinance are you talking about?
I'm talking about
The
ordinance
cottage.
2026
That's a state
4.
law.
That's state
That's a state law.
My point is that the ordinance was changed in 6 weeks. It started at, right, we were all there, we were at the reorg meeting, and Mr. Ward came up and said, hey, we gotta do this, so we need to get cakes made at home. We gotta change this, right? The next meeting, it was first reading, the next meeting, it was second reading, all of a sudden, we're baking cakes at home, selling them.
I'll let Mike address that.
That's quick. And we've been here since November. You're succeeding. We're tired. We're tired. You're here to represent us. And you guys continue to do the opposite. I understand we didn't have a conflict attorney. We had a conflict attorney with Mayor Doney for 2 months, and nothing was done. After a reorg, Mr. Doney, you told me,
You don't know
let him
nothing.
stop. I got my 5 minutes.
What's
You take
he
yours.
done, Matt?
Let me get my 5 minutes.
Bob, let him
You're not
finish.
taking mine.
Bob, let him have his 5 minutes.
After reorg, you came over and talked to me and said, Matt, you're on the cannabis committee with someone that you get to pick.
I never said you were on the committee. I said you could attend the meeting.
100%.
You could attend
Now
the
I know
meeting.
you're a bold-faced liar.
No.
100%.
You
You
could attend
came
the
over to me,
meeting.
and you can ask anybody in this room, because I talked to him, I said, Bob just asked me to be on the cannabis committee and said I can bring a friend. What? That's
Untrue.
crazy.
I think you better look in the
Crazy.
mirror about bold-faced liar, Matt.
I've even talked to Mayor Freitag about it. Please, we don't need to test whose credibility is a liar and who's not a liar.
Yes, we do.
Please, okay? So my question is,
That's what
there's a
you're trying to
concern
do.
here. There's a concern here. There's concerned residents, and you guys have done a really good job wearing us down. And going from one conflict to another conflict to now a third conflict. How do you represent us? How do you represent anybody in this room?
Who's left?
Who's left? The ag district isn't where cannabis should be. If you want to put a freeze on it and wait till our attorney gets signed under the agreement, pass ordinance reading 1 to remove ag from cannabis cultivation class 1. Very simple. Mr. Patterson can write that up without a conflict attorney. First reading, let me repeat it, very simple, because we screwed it up last
You have
week.
1 minute left.
1 minute. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. First reading, removing the agricultural district in allowed use for cannabis cultivating class 1. Remove class 1 from agricultural district. That's all you need to do. You can always reverse it. You can always take a look and see, hey, is there something we can bring back? That'll freeze everything. That won't eliminate everything. That'll freeze it and give you the time to do it. But you won't do it.
It's already
You
frozen.
won't do it. It's not frozen. New ones are frozen. There's still ones that can come through into the planning board. There's still 19 letters of support out there. They can go wherever they want. It's not frozen. You can't order the 21st one. Oh, that's great. Call me a liar.
Here we go.
Go ahead.
Just so everybody understands, all right?
Introduce, please.
Mike Ward, 2345 Auburn Avenue. For some reason, this township committee and the township committee before that asked me to become director of community development, all right? In that capacity, Bill McDermott, who was here earlier before Matt got here, who's a judge of the immigration court in Philadelphia, called me after speaking to Debbie Blemmings and said, hey, you know, my wife and I moved up here from Maryland, and my wife is a custom cake baker, and we have a very nice business where every month we have 1 or 2 cakes that my wife bakes and sells. We'd like to be able to do that in this town under the statute that was enacted by our governor 2 years ago, without the BS of having to go through the zoning board in order to get permission to do that. And I said, you know, that's an easy fix. So I sat here on reorganization, Matt. I brought that up, and Ms. Blemmings will tell you that. No, I understand, but Ms. Blemmings will tell you. Mr. McDermott came to me, and I said, this is what we should do. I didn't make a big stink about it. I do believe, all right, that I wanted to get up here tonight on behalf of Mr. McDermott, and thank you for doing it expeditiously. And I also wanted to say, and I was gonna stand up before you, you said what you said, that there are other things we should be doing in this town, particularly in our rural residential areas, so that we can mesh the Pioneers Commission permitted uses and improve the number of permitted uses that are agriculturally related, not cannabis related, agriculturally related as set forth in the Pioneers Comprehensive Management Plan in the rural residential areas. We've got rural residential zoning in this town that doesn't allow farms in certain areas, certain types of farms. We've got to change that. That's my next mission. But I want to tell this committee something, all right? When you do something like you did, all right, it's definitely for the benefit of each and every resident in this town who wants to basically have the ability to operate a business legally, morally, ethically, in a way that they weren't able to do it before. And fortunately, in this town, we have too many episodes we've all experienced where we don't have the ability, all right, the ability to do things for the economic benefit of our residents that other towns have. That ordinance you passed tonight has already been enacted in 19 towns in Camden County and will be enacted in all towns at one time. Thank God we're finally getting into the 21st century, all right? And I'm going to continue to bring ordinances to you, and I hope you act as expeditiously as you can if you realize, as I do, that these things benefit residents in this town because they create economic opportunity that the residents haven't had before. I was annoyed, and you guys know I was annoyed when when Ms. Sands basically went up and started drawing some kind of comparison between cannabis and what Mr. Denoff was referring to as the cake ordinance. No, what this is an opportunity for every single man and woman in this town to operate a business where they can manufacture cottage foods as defined in the statute and sell up to $50,000 a year, and finally comply with the law that every other person in those other 18 towns can comply with. That's all it is to it.
June Down, 1268 Middle Avenue, Waterford, New Jersey. Once again, I stand here not understanding what's going on, but you say the attorney is here to listen.
To concerns.
Okay. So, I agree. We have been here for like 5 months, and when I first attended, you said, nobody comes. Well, I came. I came to learn. I'm not learning anything. And these are my questions that I hope the attorney thinks about and that you think about. I asked about a zoning change. I was told it was agricultural. I'm now hearing that we might be able to remove that. Sure. I would love to remove that. Because my side of the township, you're Echo and the Waterford. My side of the township is not a business side. It is an agricultural side, it is a residential side. I don't see things that maybe should be in an industrial area. And that's one thing I'd like to see. I'd like to see what Matt's suggesting. The other thing is that I had questions when I came. How is this going to affect my air pollution, my groundwater? We have wells. Where's the water source coming from for this industrial growing that's going to come into my, 4 houses away from me, 5 houses away from me? What's happening there? So it was groundwater, it was air pollution, noise pollution, traffic patterns. I brought up to you last month, our bus stop. I counted it again today. 3 buses just from Waterford Township. I'm counting Hamilton, I'm counting the private schools. 3 buses. There's a kindergarten preschool bus. There were 4 children gone on from there. There's a 1st and 2nd grade bus, 4 children gone on from there. And then there's the 3rd through 6th grade. 8 children gone on from there. That doesn't add up to many children, but that bus stop is only 3 houses away. from where the site is going to be? That's another question I'd like answered. I hope the attorney can hear what I'm asking. I guess the last thing is that I want to talk about is that I told you last month, you haven't proven to me how we're benefiting from this. I don't see you telling me how we're going to get tax revenue from this, what's going to happen. You know, I don't see any benefit to it. I don't see my side of the township being torn down, not put up. And yes, Mr. D'Angelio, I really, really like being involved with your family through all the educational things I was. But I do think it's a conflict of interest. You're one of the landlords. And so the landlord can benefit. And I don't see how I'm benefiting for the residents of my area. So I plead with you to answer our questions. I'll keep coming. I've been here since waiting for you to come, 6:30. Took me a long time to get my seat where I could see everybody that's walking up, where I can pay attention. But I'm going home with the same questions and the same non-answers and the same, I just don't get a grasp of this yet. So thank you very much.
Carol Zito, 1246 Mill Avenue. I've seen a lot of things happen at township meetings. I've been to a lot of them. I've heard Andy say a lot of stuff from up there. Never once did I hear a committeeman call a resident a bold-faced liar. I think that was a total disgrace that anybody up here would allow that and not reprimand or whatever. I know there's ethics violations in the works for him to begin with, and that to me is a code of ethics that you all have to stand by. I mean, even you, all you do is bang your hands on the table when you get mad at me, and that's fine. But what he just yelled out to a tax-paying resident, I couldn't even believe it. I'm sorry that because you're in a fight for all of us, that you had to just be called a liar. When I was by him, when he spoke to you, and I know other people on this board knew that is true. So to call him a liar?
You're still wrong.
Okay.
Check the
I'll always be
audio.
wrong.
I said you should look in the mirror.
I'll always be wrong.
Probably.
Yeah. And that's what you allow. Remember, people, he's running again. Two of them are running again. And if the Republican Club backs you,
Matt Donato, 1740 Arrowhead Drive. There was a discussion earlier that we had about voting in conflict. And I have two resolutions here where Mr. D'Angelio did vote after his approval, which was first page.
June 24th.
June 26, 2024. So two licenses that were voted on. So again, whether I'm lying or not, we usually come with paper, we come with the facts, we look up the stuff, okay? And my credibility is everything. So when someone tells me that I'm not being truthful, I take that personally, okay? I stand on what I say. I don't say what I didn't research, and you'll always get that from me. And because the truth never changes. The truth will never change.
Close to the public.
you wanted to speak.
Excuse me?
I didn't see anybody getting up.
I was using my way. I told two people stood up twice, so I guess we're allowed to stand up twice.
Please.
Okay, all right. The solar, we got the grant, what's happening?
Still working with the engineer. It takes time. He asked us at last meeting, it was like 2 weeks ago, so we're still working.
Okay, all right. I see sidewalk things where people are selling stuff. They have to have a license, insurance for that, right? There's like 3 of them I've seen in the town where people are selling stuff on the side of the road. They're supposed to have insurance because if we sell eggs, we have to have insurance, right?
I don't know, I haven't sold.
Are you talking about a yard sale?
No, they have a stand, like a fruit stand or whatever.
Where's it at, Mark?
I'm not gonna rat anybody out.
Let the record show Mark is not a rat.
And if anybody knows, if anybody's got right hand cut, there's a possibility they're a person that broke vandalized mine. Right hand? Everybody raise their right hand. All right, and when my house was tore down, no pine man permit was issued. It takes 30 days to get a pine man permit. It was tore down in 2 hours.
Meeting closed, public portion. Do I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2026-92?
Motion. Second.
On a motion, second, to approve resolution 2026-92, the Township of Waterford authorizing the Township Committee to go into closed session pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12 for discussion related to the following: attorney-client privilege, affordable housing.
All in favor? Opposed, abstained? Motion carried. We are adjourned for closed session at 9:21.
Can I please have a motion and a second to reconvene meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Voice vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Motion carried. We are reconvened at 9:51 p.m.
Roll call vote, please. Or roll call, please.
Committeeman Doney?
Here.
Committeeman Ginjulio?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Wade?
Here.
Committeeman Yukas?
Here.
Mayor Jones Freitag?
Here.
Let the record reflect there were no final decisions made in closed session.
Adjournment, can I please have a
Motion.
motion?
Second.
Thank you. Voice vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Good night. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we are adjourned at 9:52 p.m.
Thanks, Deb.